All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Matthew. I am the head of the content team for the Climate Action Now app. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make your own actions to put in the Climate Action Now app on behalf of your organization for your members to see. So if you've had a chance to take a look at the app, you know that the main way that we deliver climate action in this app is through these action cards, right? And we have a steady stream of these cards that you can scroll through. My team and I have created about 1,500 generic actions that anybody with the app will be able to take right off the bat. We think they're pretty good. We think they'll keep people engaged for a pretty long time. But at the end of the day, nothing compares to seeing an action from an organization that you're part of, an organization in your area that's giving you a specific community action that you can take. So like this one. This is an action recommended by Sunrise LA to tell their California Assembly member to stop neighborhood drilling. Now, this is the kind of action that you can make for your organization. And when you do, the actions that you make will go to the front of the queue for all of your members. They'll see your actions before they see any other actions in the app. So you'll have kind of a captive audience that way. And with the organizations we've worked with so far, this has proved to be a really powerful thing. It's increased engagement pretty significantly. The organizations that have made their own actions versus those that have just used ours really increased engagement among their followers. And it's also, it seems like just a recipe for maximum impact. Because if you have a bill that you're tracking and you know what's going on with this bill in your state legislature, and you can ask your members to advocate for it, that's going to be a lot more powerful than if they're just reaching out to their U.S. representative with some generic ask that we are having everybody in the country reach out about. So that's kind of how this works. And now let's jump into how you actually make actions for this app. So this is what we call QuickBase. This is our online database that we use for storing all of our actions. And hopefully in the email or whatever other communication you use to arrive at this video, you got the link to QuickBase, but just in case, I'm going to throw it up real fast. I can find it. There it is. Give you a second to type that into your URL or go to the email where this link was given to you and click on that. And once you get there, I would recommend bookmarking this URL. This is a pretty important web address that you're going to be using every time you want to actually add an action to the app. All right, so once you're here on QuickBase, first thing you're going to want to do is press the big blue button that says New Action. Okay, and that'll take you to the action form. It's the form you're going to be using every time you want to make a new action. So let's jump right in. So the first row is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to be your name, your email, and your partner ID. And your partner ID should have been given to you by whoever sent you this video. It's the same if anybody has worked with sign-up codes. It's the same as the sign-up code that you use for signing up your members on the app. If you don't know your partner ID, just send me an email. My email is mvollrath@climateactionnow.com. So go ahead and fill out this first field here. I'll say my partner ID is 88. That's actually the Chicago chapter of the Climate Reality Project. So don't enter that unless you are from the Chicago chapter of the Climate Reality Project, but rather enter your own partner ID in that field. Okay, so moving right along to action info. So the first and most important field here is action type. As you can see, there's a number of different types of actions that you can actually create for the app. I'm going to take a minute and go back to the action or the app screen here, show you how that works. So the most common action type in the app, and by far the most common action type that I think most of you guys will be using, is what we call ask tell. You can see it's the second option on the list here. And it's basically, what AskTell is basically the advocacy type action. So this is for emailing, calling, or tweeting elected officials or CEOs or federal agencies or what have you with some kind of advocacy message. So in this case, let's take this example right here on the screen, and I'll just sort of walk you through, the process of how this actually plays out if somebody takes one of these actions. So in this one, we're telling our California Assembly member to stop neighborhood drilling. So we'll tap do it now. And as you can see, it brings up my state legislator. Magic. Obviously, it's not magic. It's an API, as we call it, fancy terminology for, somewhere on the internet, there's this information and the app calls a program to figure out who your elected official actually is and match you with that target and their contact information. So you don't actually have to provide that information. If it's one of the sort of standard elected officials, we will figure that out for you and for your users based on their address. So, okay, so let's say I want to call Kevin, which is my only option here. Usually there'll be an email and tweet option as well. Let's say I want to call him. Okay, and as you can see, there's now a message that appears. It's a personalized message with my name and my, area code that tells me what to actually say when I make this call. And then right below that is a button to actually call. And if I want to do that, I could do that with just a tap of a button, and I could actually come back to the app and read off this script while I'm on the phone. So easy peasy, right? So that's how an AskTell action actually works in the app. So now let's talk about how to create it. So after selecting this action type as AskTell, you're going to come up with an action title. And the way we like to do action titles is basically to start with a verb. So whatever actual action you're having people take, in this case, we're telling somebody. You could also say ask or urge or anything like that, right? So why don't we just use the example of the action that we had on the screen a second ago. So we'll say tell, that's the verb, and then who are we telling? We're telling our CA Assembly member. And what do we want them to do? We want them to stop neighborhood drilling. Okay. That's our action title. Didn't really want to keep it kind of short and sweet like that, if possible. Alrighty. So now we have our talking points that we're going to move on to. Actually, I can talk about the completion message. So the completion message is essentially the message that the user will get after they take the action. So I'll show you again in the app, I'll show you what that's going to look like. So let's say, pretend I called, I'm going to lie, I'm going to be very bad. Say I called when I didn't. Let's pretend I did. And what this is loading right now is the streak. What this is loading, hey, what is loading is what we call the celebration screen. And the completion message is a message that will appear right here below the you just earned 200 points thing that will sort of celebrate you for what you just did. So something along the lines of, in this case, thanks for speaking up to stop pollution in local neighborhoods. Just a little sort of pat on the back, right? People just took this action, wanted to feel good about themselves, wanted to feel like they had an impact. So let's say I wanted to do that. This is optional, but always a nice thing to do. So let's say thanks for speaking up against neighborhood drilling. That's that. Now we're on to the meat and potatoes, or the plant-based meat and potatoes, as it were. So the call talking points, the tweet boilerplate, and the email boilerplate. this is where you're actually going to write out the messages that you want people to send, whether they be speaking them on a phone call, tweeting them, or emailing them. So I'm not going to, it's a little writing project, so I'm not going to take the time to write them all out now, but you saw sort of an example of what we're looking for on the screen previously. Just a nice short message that, you know, gets to the point sort of as quickly and succinctly as possible of what you want your followers to actually ask their elected officials to do. And as a general rule, email, you know, we've seen emails that are little dissertations, like really long, which is fine, right? Wouldn't super recommend that, but there's no real length constraint for email. Call, you just want to make sure it's, you know, a reasonable length that somebody can actually pick up the phone and speak it. And tweet, real short, right? Got to be 280 characters or less, including links and hashtags. So really got to kind of boil it down. A strategy I like to use is I start by writing the email, and then I copy and paste that into the call, and I pare down where I can. And then I paste that into the tweet, and I really have to, you know, put everything on the chopping block that's not absolutely necessary. So, by the way, if you want some sort of inspiration for how other people are doing boilerplates, I recommend we go up to, I guess, actions here. And then you'll see a list of other actions that other Climate Action Now partners have created. And you can just see, okay, let's see. And here's that action about, oh wait, no, that's a different one. But let's say, okay, tell your New York governor to sign the coal tar sand sealant ban into law. You can actually take a look at that action. And we've got our call talking points, our tweet, and our email, and you can actually see what other folks have written in these fields and kind of, you know, use that as inspiration and sort of a little bit of a style guide if the need arises. So, okay, so let's say we've written our call talking points, we've written our tweet and our email. Actually, before I move on, there is something I want to highlight here, which is this thing called merge terms. So if you remember in our action that we showed here, if I can get back to it. Okay, yeah, so this screen here, right, which is the call talking points, actually says this is Matthew Walrath, which is my name. Who would have thought? And says where I'm a constituent from. So that is the magical power of what we call merge terms. And merge terms are essentially a bracketed term. First name is one of them, or full name. Full name is a merge term. Full address. A number of these terms. And what happens is when the code sees this exact string of text, right? So you have to type it in exactly verbatim, open square bracket, capital F full, capital N name, close square bracket. The code sees that in one of these boilerplates, it will recognize it and it will actually put in the user's name if they've given it to us. And that's kind of a really handy dandy little feature. So just wanted to draw your attention to that. And we do like to use those pretty much as possible. So every message should have, you know, the user giving their name if possible. Elected officials really do want to know your full address for whatever reason to make sure they can verify you're a constituent. So I would put that in somewhere in the email and the call, at least, you know, tweet, you know, really gotta be selective. So I wouldn't put it in there. But sometimes I do like to put their city in, right? Just so they have some sense that they're a constituent. So merge terms, that's how they work. And to see a full list of the merge terms that you can use, You're going to want to go over to this thing. It says call talking points. There's a little I next to it. And this little menu pops up with all of the merge terms that you can use: city, state, zip, county, recipient full name, recipient Twitter, so lots of options for you to really personalize these boilerplates, make them, it's a lot smoother and more effective. Okay, so let's say you filled in your call talking points, your tweet, your email, email subject, got your hashtags ready to go. So now we're going to move on to this section here called targets. And targets, as the name implies, is simply going to be where you designate who you want these messages to actually go to. So we've got a nice list here. U.S. Representative, Senator 1, Senator 2, those are your federal officials. And we've got governor, state legislator 1, and state legislator 2. State legislator 1 is going to be whoever the user's representative is from the lower house of their state legislature. State legislator 2 is going to be their representative from the upper house. So here in California, we've got a California Assembly, which is the lower house, and a California Senate, which is the upper house. So state legislator 1 would be the Assembly, state legislator 2 would be the Senate. And as I mentioned before, these 6 standard targets are actually, the app can look it up on a case-by-case basis and determine who to contact and what their contact info is. So all you have to do is say, I want people to contact in this case, their California Assembly member. So I'm just going to select state legislator 1, and magically each user who sees this action and takes this action will get the right state legislator given to them. Okay, so that's how these 6 targets work. Super easy. If you do want to add a target that is not one of these 6 folks, that's where custom targets come in. So let's say I wanted to add, the chairman of the Federal Reserve for whatever reason, Let's say Joe Smith, chairman. And then in this case, you do need to know their contact information. So you'd put in their phone number, you'd put in their email, you'd put in their Twitter. If you want to and have a public domain photo of them, you can throw that in as well right here. Please don't use photos that you do not have legal right to use. And in this case, if you're doing a custom target like this, it will be the same custom target for everybody who takes this action, right? So when we were on the state legislator, right? If you send this to 20 different people in California, right, they may have different state legislators, and the code will actually be able to accommodate that. But if you send a custom target action to 20 people in California, each of those 20 people will be contacting Joe Smith. There's no way to have them contact different people through the custom target function. Okay, so we've got our regular targets and our custom targets. And as you can probably see, we've only been working with one of the 3 target slots. So what are these other 2 for? Well, one of the fancy features of the ask-tell is actually that you can what we call daisy chain targets. So after they contact their California Assembly member, in this case, you can say, well, let's have them contact their state senator as well. And it'll just pop up on that celebration screen that we saw and say, hey, for more points, do you want to contact your other state legislator? And people can do that with tap of a button, same exact process. And you can do that for up to 3 targets in a row. So in this case, it might make sense to do state legislator 1, state legislator 2, and governor. All right, so that's the ask-tell section. Okay, now we're down here, what we call sharing info. So sharing info is basically just the message that people will be able to share outside of the app if they decide to share this action with one of their friends or family. So let's go back to the app screen and I'll show you how that actually works. So again, I'm going to be very bad and lie about having done this. As you can see on the celebration screen, there's a button that says share, and it prompts me to do that for 20 points. And if I click on that, it's going to bring up this menu, which is the default phone operating system menu on with all of these different options for contacting somebody outside of the app. So I can contact one of my friends via text, contact my boss Brett, or I can use email to somebody. I can Slack it to somebody, right? So this is just basic sharing functionality, right? But you can see up here, there's a little thing that tells you what you're actually going to share, right? I just told my state representative to stop neighborhood drilling. So that's the message that actually goes in this sharing text, is whatever you want people, to say to their friends or family or whoever they're sharing this with about the action. And you'll also be able to link the action itself for people to take. So what you're actually sharing is the action. What they're actually sharing, if they do that, is the action itself. But you probably want some kind of lead in to give context for what they're sharing and why. So that's what goes in this field. So for this one, I might say something literally just like what appeared. I just told CA rep, or I guess assembly member we call them. Type being watched. I just told my CA assembly member to stop neighborhood drilling. Join. That would be an example of a share message that we could use for this particular action. Okay. Now we're going down to the why. I'm probably wondering, what is the why? The why, since you asked, is this little section of the action card. By the way, you get a little done stamp when you actually do the action. So the why section of the card is this little tiny thing in the corner. As you can see, it's got a little question mark with a floating Y button. And if anybody were to tap that, it would flip the card over and it would give them, a substantive explanation of the action they're about to take and why they should take it. You can see there are two sort of fields here, right? Neighborhood drilling is dangerous, big, bold kind of headline here, right? And then there's all the, nitty gritty details below that. And okay, so when we're entering this into the action record, this headline thing is what we're calling the Y headline. So that goes right here. And the Y is the full text of whatever you're actually saying. So the Y headline, we like to have things that are just kind of, short, sweet, almost like ad copy, neighborhood drilling is dangerous. So it's the example for this one. Not more than a few words, or to keep it short and sweet. And the reason we have this is because, shocker, people don't really like to read for the most part. So we like to give them, a sense of why they should take this action in just a few words. And then if they want to read more, if they're, bookworms, then you can give them the full why. And this is where you can lay out, here's the context of this bill, here's what it would do, here's why we really want to get it passed, all that good stuff. Okay, so let's say you've written your why and your why headline. Okay, and now we're down to sources. Okay, so sources are a little bit of a can of worms, but an important one. So we will take the time to actually go talk about sources. So you can see sources appear here on the Y tab. If you go over to sources, you actually get a link to a source that has the information that was used to craft the action. Something we like to do for a lot of reasons, but mostly, increases credibility and also gives people a nice, if you're really interested in the context behind something, gives them a nice resource they can read to learn more about it. So adding sources to the app, as I mentioned, is a little bit of a process, but Not too bad. So you're going to go add reference. You're not going to do what you're going to be tempted to do, but what you're not going to do is to type the URL of the source into this box that says enter reference record IDs. Super tempting. I've done it myself many times. That is not how to do it. Instead, you're going to want to click add reference here. So that will take you to this form. Just 4 little fields, not too scary. Website publication, so that's going to be like Times or whatever. The date of publication, let's say, and this is not the date that you're making the action, but rather the date the source itself was published. Say that was published on June 6th of this year, just making that up. The source title is going to be the name of the source as you actually want it to appear on that source page. So let's use the first one. Should we go nuclear? New York Times reports. And the source URL is whatever the URL is for that particular source. Okay. And you're going to go ahead and save and close. Okay. And now, here's what you do with this super tempting box here. You're actually going to enter the record ID number that appears here in this table of the reference. So 1725. And that's how the app will know to link this reference with this action. Okay. And if you were to have multiple references, you would simply type them in separated by commas, like so. Okay. So that's how sources work. Yeah, I know it's confusing. Any questions, drop me a line, mvolrath@climateactionnow.com. Okay. All right, we're getting to the home stretch, folks. So the second to last field we're going to use is the where. And this is actually a really important one and kind of a cool one. So this is what's going to tell the app who to show it to, who to show this action that you're making to. So in this case, what's the action? The action is to tell our California assembly member to do something. So in this case, we're going to only want to show that to people in California, right? If you're in Arkansas and you saw tell your California assembly member, it'd be like, huh? Right? So we only want to show this to people in California. So we're going to select the state CA. You can actually do it even more specifically. So let's say we only wanted to show it to people in Los Angeles, CA. That's also something we could do. So you want to show it to people in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Merced. I don't know. You can actually do that as well. You can string together a list of multiple cities in the same state. We don't yet have county level filtering. So if you want to do something to a particular county, the way we suggest you do that is enter all of the cities in that county into this box. So let's say we're happy with this. This is what we want to do. So we're sending it to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Merced, California. Although in this case, like we said, it's tell your California assembly member, so we really don't want to do a city. So we'll just say send it to everybody in California. Okay, for some reason it doesn't appear there. I don't know why, but we did in fact tell it California and it saved California. So don't be alarmed if you don't see that. I'm not sure why you don't, but apparently you don't. Okay, and final field here is going to be the when. So expiration date and time. What this is about is essentially, is your action going to become irrelevant at some point, right? If it were advocating for a particular bill, for instance, in the California Assembly, we'd want to see when's that bill going to come to a vote. And at that point, we're going to want to remove this action because it will have either passed, woohoo, or it will have failed, boo. But either way, not going to be super useful to have people advocating for it anymore. And let's say we did our homework and this bill is going to, come to the floor July 21st. So we'll say July 21st, 21. And what that does is it sends me on that date a little message to say, hello, please get rid of this action because it's no longer relevant. Okay, and that is a full and complete action, folks. We are ready to go. And so the final thing that we're going to do is we're going to click save and close. And it's going to say action saved. It's not going to be a whole lot of fanfare, but you can give yourself your own little fanfare. Have a trumpet head, you can play a little trumpet tune because you are done and you have just put that action out. Not quite into the app yet, not quite into the world, but you have put that action out into my end of the pipeline. And so what will happen next is I will be notified that you have created this new action. And at my earliest available opportunity, I will come in and I will edit some properties of the action that you don't have access to because they're super nerdy. Just make sure those are all in order. Maybe do a little tiny bit of copy editing if necessary. And then as quickly as possible, I will publish this action and get it ready to go in the app. So yeah, that's how that works. Once again, if you have any questions, if you encounter any difficulties at any point during the process, that's my email right there. Don't hesitate to reach out. Great. So if you're only planning to make advocacy type actions, congratulations, you're done. You could stop watching this video. If, however, you are interested in checking out some of the other types of actions in the app, stay with me. I'll do a very quick rundown of the different types of actions that you can actually create other than ask-tells. So, okay. So going off that, we're now looking at a couple more action types that you can use. Okay, let's just go down the list. So one of them is pledge. Very simple. Oh, and by the way, for all of these action types, most of the fields that you'll be filling in are standard. Every single action type is going to use them. So obviously this first field, sharing info, is going to be the same for every action. The why headline is going to be the same, sources, where, when, all that's going to be the same regardless of what action type you're using. The only thing that's going to change is going to be this section here. And I'll sort of show you how that works, right? If you select different things, we get a different section with different little parameters and such. So that's the only thing that's going to change. So let's say we wanted to do a pledge. So pledges are essentially, they're individual actions, right? Where an individual is pledging to try something new in terms of their sustainability journey, or they're pledging to, at some point in the future, maybe, their next refrigerator, they're going to have it be HFC free, or their next, their next car will be electric or something like that. So that's great. All that's great to use pledges for, and I'll show you how that works. So just two fields, easy peasy, pledge name, letter pledge text. So pledge name. At your discretion, you could give it kind of a cute name. We like to have little fun names like the Clean Car Pledge, or electric vehicle, or the Super Reuser Pledge. Like if you're pledging to, get a reusable water bottle or something, I don't know. But just like a little fun, kind of alliterative or something like that title never hurts, right? But you could also just play it straight and say the, Impossible Burger Pledge. Say, be a straight shooter about it. And that's that. And then the pledge text is simply where you enter, I will, or maybe you want to say, my next burger will be a plant-based burger, which saves water, land, carbon emissions. So easy peasy. That's all you got to do. And we will take care of the whole process of reminding the user that they've committed to do this and having them renew their pledge every month or so, and all that good stuff. So that's all you got to do. Action title for these, we like to kind of do it in the following way. We like to say, take the Impossible Burger pledge. So you actually say the name of the pledge in the title. You say, next burger, plant-based burger. Or maybe we'll be plant-based. It's nice to cut words whenever you can. So that's that. Okay, and by the way, if you see an action type in here that I haven't gone over, it generally means do not attempt. If you want to attempt, if you like, oh man, I really want to see what this quiz stuff is all about, drop me a line, drop me an email. I can have a personal one-on-one with you to try to figure out how we can do that. But for the most part, I'd say most partners don't seem to need to use any of the ones other than the ones that I'm going to go over in this video. Okay, so we're going to skip quiz. Quiz is a whole can of worms. Read, other than ask tell, read is really the kind of the other one that a lot of people are using, and that you can use in a lot of different sort of creative ways. So as the name implies, read is meant primarily for online articles, right? Some kind of resource, online resource that somebody can read, whether that be a New York Times article or a blog post from your organization, or anything along those lines. So if you have something like that, great. Let's say, learn why Texas's power crisis is a sign of climate woes to come. I don't know. Kind of depressing, but climate change is depressing. So let's say that was our thing and we had a link to the New York Times, say this was a link to the New York Times. I don't know. So that this field here, URL, that's where you're going to put in the URL to whatever resource you're actually linking people to. But as I mentioned, there are other ways that you can actually use this. So anything that is an online resource of any kind, you can actually use the read action type to have users interact with. So if you have an Eventbrite link, you want users to attend your next chapter meeting, you could put an Eventbrite link into this URL field. And obviously you would have an action title that's more like, and our next chapter meeting. Nowhere, by the way, will they see this action type. So they're not going to see, oh, it's a read, but why is it linking to an Eventbrite? They'll never know, all they'll see is this action title that you make. So if you make it about attending our next chapter meeting, and then they click do it now, and it takes them to an Eventbrite, it's going to be totally smooth and seamless, right? So you could do that. You can do, I don't know, if there's like an online quiz or like an online or Google form you want them to fill out to report to you, what they're doing, I don't know, to reduce their food waste or something, anything like that, anything where there's an online URL that you want people to go to and either read something or do something on it. The read action type is great for that. A word of warning, we don't encourage you to use this for online petitions. So petitions through like Action Network or something. We encourage you to not use this for that functionality, only because a lot of those petitions sign people up for a million different email lists, which a lot of people find very upsetting. So if you know for a fact that you have an online petition, let's say it's for your organization, you're on your website, great, go ahead and throw it in here. But if it's sort of, a broad national petition that like a million organizations are behind, chances are that's going to be a spam factory for users. And we would encourage you, for the sake of your brand as well as ours, to be careful about putting those into the app. All right, so that's read. Schedule. That's not for something like chapter meeting, because again, they're using the read type and throwing in a link to an Eventbrite or something is the way to do that. But schedule, what that's for is like, if you want the user to find a time to do something, right? The whole point of the app, obviously, is that you can do, everything can be done immediately, no matter where you are, right? But there will be certain things that you're going to want folks to do that are going to take longer, or that, you know, they're not going to be able to drop everything and do right now, right? Let's say, you know, you have a really good documentary you want people to watch, right? You could use a schedule DAP for that. DAP, by the way, if I've ever used that word, that's our fancy word for action type. So schedule a time to watch documentary ice. So that would, what that would actually do is you'd go down here and you would say watch ice, location irrelevant, repeat never, alert, I don't know, 2 hours before, whatever. You can fill that in however you want. And what that will do is when they click do it now, it'll actually go to their calendar app, right? It'll bring up their calendar and they'll let them schedule a time of their choosing to watch this documentary. And then their calendar app will remind them at that time, or whenever you set the alert for, to actually go ahead and watch that documentary. So you can use it for that. You can use it for, I don't know, like let's say you wanted to have people, you know, schedule a letter writing party where they, you know, they have their friends come over and they write letters to their city council, right? Or schedule, you know, a climate movie night or something. I don't know. I've got movies on the brain today, but any sort of event that the user themselves is going to schedule, or that they're going to, that you're going to want them to do, but that they can't do immediately, right? They're going to have to find a larger block of time at some point in the future to do it. That's what you can use the schedule DAP for. Okay, share out of app. That's if you have a resource that you want not just the user themselves to interact with, but you want them to share it, right? And I showed you that menu before of sharing functionality. So that's going to be the exact same thing. It's simply going to put whatever URL you enter into their texting app or their email app, and they're going to be able to send a message to somebody else, you know, a recipient of their choosing, inviting them to go to that link and do whatever it is one does on that link. So if you had a blog post that your organization just put out that you wanted, you know, people to share, you could do a share out of app. And again, you're going to write the share message and put the URL right here. Or if you wanted to have people invite their friends to your chapter meeting, let's say, you know, you could put that Eventbrite link in here, right? And maybe you could have two actions. You could have one that's sign up for the event yourself, another that's invite a friend to the event. That's share out of app. This one is what we call share text video. That is, they both start with share, but they are fairly different because share out of app, you're sharing it with, you know, somebody outside the app, a friend or family member. Share text video, you're actually sharing it with the app community itself. And to explain that, I better show you where one sees posts from other people in this app. So you haven't gotten a chance to go to the community yet. The community is where you see all the other people that you choose to follow, right? And what they're doing. So it's kind of cool, right? You can see what they've done. You can take the action yourself. You can comment, like, share. It's a sort of steady stream of inspiration of what other people are doing on the Climate Action Now app. So what this share text video type does is it actually prompts you to write a little, you know, message to be posted on the community feed. I'm just going through to see if there's any example of this, but I can't find one. So, so the way that it'll appear is as a little, bubble saying this person responded to this prompt, basically, right? So what we like to use this for is sort of telling your own, making it personal, right? Telling your own story about how climate change has impacted you, what you care about in terms of climate change. So one action that we have along this line is like, share the first time climate change became real to you, for instance, right? So something like that, or, share an environmental justice issue that matters to you. As you can see, share prompt. That's where you'd write this in, tell our app community about an environmental justice issue that matters to you. It's maximum video length here. They have an option to send their message either via writing, right? Writing a message in text or recording a video. Recording a video is a really cool way to, to create some engagement by, actually having a human face and a human voice in what you're sharing. So we really do encourage people to do that. And this video and this maximum video length is basically how long they have. I don't know why we defaulted to 20. I feel like we should change that because 20 seconds is really not enough time to tell a story. So I would up it to 60 for anything that requires any amount of explanation or storytelling. So that's share text video. And another, by the way, another sort of way that you can use this is you can actually have people, if you have some kind of campaign, right? Like you want people to start their own garden, or you want people to, I don't know, collect their shower water in a bucket or something. You can use this as a way to have people report in an interactive way how they're doing on this commitment that they've made, right? So you could say, share a photo of your shower bucket or what have you, right? I guess it would be a video, actually. Share a video of your shower bucket, right? So they go into their shower, they show their bucket, hey, it's 2/3 full, and I'm going to use it to water my plants later today, right? That's kind of a way that they can report back to you about what they're doing and also engage with their fellow community members and their fellow members of your organization around this this campaign that you're all doing, and kind of motivate each other. Haven't had anybody use it for that purpose yet, but if you want to be the first, we think that's kind of a cool way that could be potentially used. All right, and last but not least, watch. Exact same as read, except as the name implies, this is where you're going to throw in a URL to a video instead of a URL to a web page of text. Like we've said several times, a lot of people don't super love to read. I'm not sure what that's about. I'm one of them. Much rather watch a video. So definitely encourage you to, if your organization has any videos, super long, like webinars and lectures, think about whether it's really appropriate for an app or not, but certainly, 5-minute YouTube videos explaining, explaining food waste, explaining, I don't know, how to patch a pair of jeans or something. Anything like that is going to be a great way to engage people and break up sort of the flow of, tell your representative to do this, tell your state legislator to do this, like one of the things we've noticed is, understandably, a lot of partner actions are very sort of, advocacy based and are, wanting to really get stuff done, which is awesome. But as I mentioned, all partner actions do go to the front of the line, right? So it's just going to be a block. The user's just going to see a block of all of the actions that you've created in order, basically. So one thing that can be really nice to do is to make a couple of these every once in a while, make a couple of watches, make a couple of reads to break up the monotony, right, and give users a little bit of a break, chance to just kick back and watch something that's still educational and informative and climate related, but is not, they don't have to kind of actually make a phone call or send a tweet or anything like that. All right. So if you've made it this far, congratulations. You are all trained up on how to add actions to the Climate Action Now app. As I've mentioned a number of times, and I'll mention again, I know this is a lot, a lot of information. So please don't hesitate at all to drop me a line. mvollrath@climateactionnow.com. Mail's right there. If any questions that you have, or if I can support you in any way, we really are a mission-driven company. We're not doing this to make money. We're doing this to help climate superstars like you and the members of your organization multiply their impact, right? You can't buy passion. And you guys have so much passion and so much dedication to saving our world, which is priceless, right? And we're here to help you multiply your impact in any way that we can. So if there's anything that we can do to support you, any questions you have, any feedback you have, let me know. Email that email right there, and I will be in touch as soon as I can. All right. Thank you again, everybody. And looking forward to seeing lots of awesome partner actions coming down the pipe.